Hey guys, hello and welcome to Naveed for Speed. In today's video, I am going to be going on an American road trip. If you haven't already guessed from the view behind me, I am currently in Los Angeles and I'm going to be driving all the way to the Grand Canyon and stopping at Las Vegas on the way. The car that I have for this journey is this one right here. It's an American road trip, so I had to have a typically American car. So that's why I've gone for the Dodge Challenger GT. I must admit, I don't know a lot about it. It's not the V8, it's the V6 because I rented the car, and you know when you play car rent car, hire car roulette, I basically ended up with the V6. But because it's a GT, it should be good for a grand tour, a long journey, and it comes with just over 300 horsepower and it does 20 miles per gallon average, which I don't know if that's not really that great, but the fuel prices here are a little bit different. In this video, I'm going to be learning more about the car and I'm going to be showing you the experience of an American road trip. The weather's great. The car, I've been driving it so far, it seems good. Let's just get on with it. I'm so excited.
Before heading out of LA, I quickly stopped at the Griffith Observatory, where I got to see a great view of the downtown LA skyline. It was nice to see a panoramic view of the city as my journey commenced.
Well and truly on my way to Joshua Tree National Park. That is the first stop on this trip, on this road trip. I've just come out of LA. I spent the last day in LA, driving around LA, getting used to the roads, getting used to the car, getting used to driving on this side of the road, which I did do when I was in Europe in my Switzerland road trip in the Isuzu base camp. If you do want to watch that, make sure you click this link that I'll put in the corner of the video. But the difference on this particular occasion is I'm now sat on the left hand side of the road. Now I've never really driven a car from this side of the road, and to begin with it did take a bit getting used to because for example, you're not used to having a door to your left, and so I have elbowed it quite a few times. But other than that, and obviously what lane the lane positioning, so where you position the car in the lane, that was a little bit different. Because I'm on this side of the car, I'm more to the left of the lane, so that did take a bit of getting used to, but now it feels totally natural. Now I feel like this is basically how I've been driving my whole adult life, and it feels normal. But there were a few things to get used to. The car, I don't want to mention about the car. The car is interesting because the Dodge Challenger is a cool looking car. It basically looks like an American muscle car. It looks like it's got a lot of power. But as we're always told with American cars, they're not really well refined. And one of the things that I wanted to do on this trip was experience an American car on an American road trip on American roads from American cities as a Brit, seeing all this and what my experience will be like. And so far, what I can tell you was initially I was actually quite surprised that it all seems to be put together quite well. But as I'm driving the car, there are a few little things that sort of are giving me doubt. First and foremost, I can hear a lot of wind noise, especially coming over this wing mirror on this side. I don't know if there's a gap in the door or something, but it definitely, that's how loud it is. But I can definitely hear some wind noise. And the road, the tire noise is interesting, but I would put that down to some of the roads that I hear, because some of the roads are really not good, so bumpy. I mean, the 405, the interstate, is it the freeway, the interstate, whatever it is, the 405, that is pretty much one of the, if not the busiest road in the whole of America. Californians or people from LA describe it as being the biggest parking lot in LA. It literally is standstill traffic. Now, I was quite fortunate that I managed to miss all the standstill traffic, and I was able to go on that road during outside of peak times. But even still, it's a busy road, and the road is so bumpy. The quality of it is really not good. Aside from that, the rules of driving in America, pretty easy, pretty straightforward. The turning right on red lights, that got me a bit confused, to be honest, but eventually I got used to it. And there are certain times where you can't turn right, and I'm able to recognize those now because of the signs or the traffic lights. But other than that, in general, it's easy to drive in America once you get used to it, and you can get used to it fairly quickly. But as I continue on this journey, I will keep updating you on the driving experience. I'll keep updating you on the car as well if I find anything new about the car, and I'll update you on what the place is like. Let's go check out Joshua Tree National Park.
The drive out of Los Angeles was pretty easy. Since it was Memorial Day, I figured it would be super busy with lots of traffic, but that certainly wasn't the case. The snow-capped mountains provided a beautiful backdrop to the road trip, and the weather was amazing. I even stopped for fuel, which was a cool experience. Eventually, I made it into Joshua Tree National Park, where the roads were sensational. I was also able to stop to explore the car's exterior.
I finally made it after hours of driving here at Joshua Tree National Park. And the first thing that I can tell you about the national park is it's big. It's big. I mean, everything in America, everything in California is big. The roads are big, the freeways are big, everything's big. The national parks, I mean, I've driven up to this particular location, and I'm not even halfway through this national park, and I've already been driving for a long time. But this particular car has dealt with it all without a problem. And just look at it, it looks cool. It's an American muscle car, and no matter what anybody says, no matter what we say, we all love American muscle cars. At least I love the way that it looks. It just looks so cool. I mean, if you start from the front here, it's got this really cool front splitter, which signifies, you know, some of its power. It's got loads of bits in the middle for cooling, and it's also got round headlights. Now, I know round headlights are a thing of the past, and most modern cars don't have round headlights, but I think they look so cool. I mean, think of all the cars that have round headlights. They look really good. At the top here, you got this sort of power bulge, and also you got more cooling, a vent for cooling, which especially in a lot of Dodge cars, you got your Challengers, your Chargers, your Hellcats, all those sort of cars, you find that sort of that cooling on the hood, as they call it here in America. On the bonnet, you find that in different configurations. As we move towards the side of the car is sat on these 20-inch alloy wheels, on these Goodyear Eagle tires. At least 3 of the tires, the 2 on this side and 1 on that side. What is that thing? Oh, it's just a crow. I thought it was an eagle or something. You find all sorts of wildlife here. Apparently there's snakes here, which I haven't heard. Oh, it's back. Apparently there's snakes here, which I don't want to have to deal with. But anyway, yeah, the car's sat on 3 Goodyear Eagle tires, and the tire on this side is something else. It's a totally different company, which I've never even heard of. So that just tells you that this particular hire car has been driven, and either it got a flat tire or that tire was just fully worn out. And I can understand why, because this car likes to spin its wheels a lot. It's got 300 horsepower, V6 engine, and it doesn't have a lot of traction sometimes, but I mean, it's mostly dry around here, so it's nice and easy to drive. Talking about dry, right now the weather is 31 degrees Celsius. I think it's about high 80s, 90 degrees Fahrenheit for the Americans, and it's hot. It's really hot, and I've had to apply SPF. And just standing here recording this bit of the video, I think I need to go put some more SPF on. So I'm gonna go do that, and I'm gonna head through more of the national park. I'll show you more of Joshua Tree National Park, and we'll head into Las Vegas, and I'll show you the rest of the journey and what more I can tell you about this road trip. So stay tuned, and if you like what you're watching, make sure to hit the subscribe button, make sure to hit like on this video, and comment what you think is so good about American cars, or what's not good, because I'm sure there's probably a lot of things that you don't like.
Joshua Tree provided some excellent locations to photograph the Dodge, and I even stopped to explore some of the rocky landscape. On my journey through the desert, I even came across a Tesla Cybertruck, and American hospitality prevailed as the owner even let me take a look around the beast of a vehicle. But my journey had to continue into some of California's unforgiving valleys and long stretches of straight road.
I'm just on the way from Joshua Tree National Park on the way to Las Vegas, and I've just decided to stop here with the car in the middle of this valley, and just to show you just how vast the landscape is. I mean, just look at this. I've been driving for quite some time to get to here, and there's just absolutely nobody around. It's just, look at this. And I've got a long way to go yet just to get out of this valley, and then the rest of my journey to get to Las Vegas. So I'm going to continue on my journey and hopefully see you in Las Vegas.
My arrival into Las Vegas was like something out of a movie as the mountains gave way to the concrete jungle carved out in the middle of the desert. That night I checked into Caesar's Palace Hotel and enjoyed some much needed rest as the next day would be equally tiring.
Good morning. It is I actually can't remember what day it is, day 3 I think, day 4. And this morning or this day is gonna be a good one because I am heading out of Las Vegas and to the Grand Canyon. I got into Vegas last night a little bit later than expected. That's because I spent a lot longer at Joshua Tree. Joshua Tree is a national park which actually really surprised me. I didn't think I would like it so much. It's beautiful. It's got the really cool desert vibes, very photogenic. Took some pictures of the car there. It looks really good. So if you are heading around this area and you want to go to the national parks like Death Valley, and you want to go to Sequoia National Park and Yosemite, don't underestimate Joshua Tree. It is really nice. But yes, this morning I am heading towards the Grand Canyon, and on the way there are a few exciting stops if you're a fan of the movie Cars. But the first stop is actually not too far away, and it is the Hoover Dam. If you have played Grand Theft Auto games, I remember playing those, and it was called Sherman Dam in the game. But yeah, Hoover Dam, such an engineering masterpiece. I mean, let's go see it in person and see the sheer vastness of it, because everything is bigger here, and so the dam must be great. But anyway, I'll show you the Hoover Dam.
As I approached the Hoover Dam, I could see the lake. It's cool to think that the dam itself is the border between Nevada and Arizona.
So I've just been past Hoover Dam, stopped in a town called Kingman, and also stopped in a town called Seligman. Seligman is basically, well, Kingman and Seligman are partly responsible, or the inspiration behind the movie Cars. And if you like cars and if you're watching this channel, then you probably are a fan of the movie Cars. And yeah, that's what it was inspired by, and they've got loads of model cars and versions of the cars from the actual movie there, so that was pretty cool to see. But anyway, now I'm headed off on the last stretch towards the Grand Canyon. I've wasted a lot of time today stopping every time I see something interesting, but yeah, now I'm actually on the way to the Grand Canyon, and it seems like this is the sort of the climax of the trip. This is that bucket list, once in a lifetime thing that I want to do. So it's quite exciting that I'm finally on my way there. I do want to mention a few things when it comes to driving in America. I did stop for fuel on the way, and I paid for fuel before I pumped the gas, as they call it here, and I paid $50 for fuel. And one thing that I really like about the fuel tanks here is you pay $50 and then you go and you pump your fuel, and it'll stop at $50. You won't get $50 and 1 cent off back home in UK, where it's £50 and 1 pence, and then you're having to look for a penny if you're paying by cash. It's just, it just pumps $50. And also you can set the pump to just go itself, and you can just stand there and stretch and just enjoy. You don't have to worry about holding the pump into place. So I think that's really cool, and I would love to have that in the UK. Aside from that, yeah, the car, as I'm driving this car more and more, I'm starting to like it more and more, because I'm spending more time with it, and it's allowing me to see breathtaking things here in America, things that I have wanted to see for a long time. And so that experience that I share with this car, I really like it, and I'm starting to love the car more and more. Even though it has its flaws, it has all the issues with refinement, wind noise is crazy, the roads aren't the best quality most of the time, although near the Hoover Dam they were really good. The asphalt here was nice and smooth, but now where I am on the I-40, it's not the best, and you hear bumps and you hear all sorts of noises, especially as you're going over the different road surfaces. But we continue. We have done situation update. We have done let me check, 688 miles in total with this car so far, with an average fuel economy so far of 26 miles per gallon. I've spent around $100 on fuel so far. So yeah, it's going good, to be honest. Let's go and see the Grand Canyon, and I'll show you some of the shots from there when I get there.
After a quick stop in an authentic Route 66 diner, I pushed on towards the Grand Canyon.
I finally made it here to the Grand Canyon National Park, and it was a long journey. And there's a few things I want to talk about on this journey. First and foremost, as I was getting closer to the Grand Canyon, there was more and more bugs, and the front of this car, especially the windscreen, has so many bugs on it so far, and I'm yet to drive this car for quite a few hundred more miles on this trip. So yeah, it's gonna get quite dirty. The other thing I wanted to mention is, first and foremost, the speed limits on the motorway. Nobody's following them. Everybody's going faster than the speed limit. I always follow the speed limit. I'm following the speed limit and everybody's just overtaking me, even the police. So it's a bit strange. But what's interesting is when I put the maps on, the car's speedo reads exactly the same as the maps, which tells me that this car, at least, I don't know if it's all American cars, but this car doesn't overstate the speed that your car's doing. You know, like back in the UK, at least, I don't know if it's everywhere in the world, but cars usually overstate the speed limit, speedo by a few miles per hour. So if you're doing, let's say, 72 miles per hour indicated, in reality you're actually doing around 69, 70 miles per hour. Well, that's not the case in this car. If you are American or if you know about Dodge cars or American cars in general, let me know if that's something that's common on all cars. But that's something which I've found. But yeah, so far the experience has been pretty good. I spent 150 quid on fuel at the moment. Well, no, sorry, $150 on fuel at the moment. And so yeah, 760 odd miles in it. So yeah, we're doing good. Good progress.
The Grand Canyon was as spectacular as you'd imagine. It's crazy to think that 1 mile down there is the Colorado River. Truly a sight to behold. I had some time to explore the rim trail and venture down into the canyon as well. After this, I stopped back at Vegas for the night before heading back towards LA. The journey back to LA was long, but a small town that happened to have the world's tallest thermometer provided a brief respite from driving. I even got a chance to stop at the Musical Road in Lancaster.
So today's journey is pretty straightforward. I'm just driving back to LA. I've seen the Grand Canyon, I've seen some incredible stuff, and it's a pretty straightforward drive now to go back to LA because most of it is on this one stretch of motorway which is 186 miles long, and there are a lot of straight roads in America. This particular town that I'm in now, Bakers, California, I saw a sign for it 11 miles ago and I could actually see the city just in a straight line. That just shows you how big and vast this place is. I've stopped here to get a bit of rest and also to check out the world's tallest thermometer, which is just right behind me over there. I also thought it'd be a great opportunity to show you the interior of this car, because American muscle cars look really cool from the outside. What are they like from the inside? Now, I've spent a fair bit of time in this car. In fact, I spent over 20 hours behind the wheel in the last few days, so I've started to get used to it. I like the cockpit, I like the big steering wheel. It's nice and fat and chunky, and you can, it's just heavy enough that you can actually feel yourself turning, but it's nice and light that it's comfortable around the city. The cockpit, including the infotainment system, is slightly tilted towards the driver, so it gives a more driver focused cockpit. You got this this is an automatic, so you got this drive selector mode here. I think it's an 8-speed automatic gearbox that this car has, and it's just really cool, nice and smooth. The automatic gearbox works really well, and when you need the power's there for overtaking, etc. And you get this really cool audible sound when you rev the engine and you drive the car a little bit hard. Comfort wise, America's roads are some of the worst roads that I've seen, to be honest. Maybe it's because I'm on some of the oldest highways, but yeah, they are quite shocking. And this car has dealt with them pretty well, especially with the amount of hours that I've spent behind the wheel. I should be more tired than I am, but I'm pretty cool. It's pretty nice. The seats cushion you really well, and they're nice and big, so they don't squeeze you too much. Storage, you get all sorts of storage, door bins and glove box, and big door bins for bottles and water. Water is really important in this Californian and Nevada and Arizona heat. Temperatures been getting in the high 30s. We're talking 39, even touching 40 in some places. So it can get hot, and when it gets hot, what you find is there's a lot of bugs. I already mentioned this earlier in the video. A lot of bugs on the front of the car, a lot of bugs on the windscreen. But what I found interesting is when I stop for fuel, they actually have some like equipment that you can use to wash your windscreen. I suppose here that's pretty straightforward and pretty normal because you get bugs on your windscreen all the time. So when you stop for fuel, you could quickly just wipe your windscreen. That's something which I really like as well when it comes to fuel, and I really hope that we could get that in the UK, to be honest. Talking about bugs, last night there were some bugs on the front of the car. This morning, not there anymore. Maybe a bird took them. Maybe they just weren't dead and they were just stuck on the front of the car. I don't know. Could be some zombie bugs, to be honest.
After another night in LA, I set off towards the captivating Sequoia National Park, hoping to see the General Sherman tree.
Good morning. It's the final day of the road trip here in California. I'm not in LA. I'm currently on my way out of LA, heading towards Sequoia National Park. I've just passed Bakersfield. I've been on the road for a couple of hours and it's nice. The thing about LA is in the morning when you wake up, the temperature's not that warm, but throughout the day it gets warmer and warmer. I think it should hit probably high 20s today, 29 degrees maybe even. So it should be a good day, but today I'm gonna go see Sequoia National Park, see some of the biggest trees in the world, the redwoods. So that should be interesting, but it is the final day of the road trip. I am going to be in LA for a few more days with this car, so I'll still be driving it around the city. But as far as the big long drives to see some of the most beautiful sights in the world, that's today. It's all going to come to an end. And I just want to say, so far, this car has been amazing. This country has been, or at least these few states that I've been in, have been really eye-opening. It's been a hell of an experience, and I can genuinely say that I've seen some things, and hopefully I've shown you guys some things as well. But for now, let's head on to Sequoia National Park. I'll show you a little bit about that, and then I'll bring this road trip to an end.
After entering the national park, I drove higher and higher into the Sierra Nevada mountains and eventually found myself in the giant forest. A quick walk led me to the largest tree in the world, the General Sherman tree. The General Sherman tree wasn't the only incredible sight in the forest, as there was even the 4 guardsman trees and the tunnel log which I got to drive through in the Dodge. Not far from there was Morro Rock, where I got to see some lizards and even a California mountain snake. The views from the top were breathtaking, a sight to behold. Such a beautiful valley surrounded by snow-capped Sierra Nevada mountains. Eventually, I headed back to LA to conclude the road trip.
So here I am finally at the end of my American road trip, and I'm currently just at Santa Monica Beach. This is basically the end of Route 66. My trip wasn't exactly Route 66, although I did get to go on some parts of the historic Route 66. But here I am back in LA at the end of my trip, and it's time to sum up the entire journey, it's time to sum up the entire road trip, and it's time to tell you a little bit about the car. So first and foremost, let me tell you about the sort of mileage that I did in the car and the fuel economy. In this journey, I did over 2,000 miles in the car. During the highway, I got around 27 to 30 miles per gallon. In the city, it was closer to 20 miles per gallon. Overall, it came to an average of around 24 miles per gallon, which might sound pretty bad, but you got to remember that the fuel that I was getting here was roughly around £1 per litre. It's around just anywhere between $4 and $6 per gallon. So fuel is a lot cheaper here. And also when you put in fuel, you could just leave the fuel nozzle in the car and you can just go off and stretch or whatever as the fuel continues to go into your car, which I think is pretty good. And the fuel stations also have the squeegees that you can use to wash your windscreen. So to bugs, which you get a lot of bugs in this part of the world, and that's really cool as well. I think these are stuff that we should have in the UK. Another thing which America does differently when it comes to driving is turning right at red lights. I think that's pretty cool. I was a bit confused even up until now, where I've got used to driving here. I still got a bit confused where I'm allowed to turn right and where I'm not allowed to turn right at a red light. So I just used caution for stuff like that. When it comes to the journey when it comes to the places that I've seen, the things that I've seen, it's just so beautiful at this part of the world. Seeing things like the Grand Canyon National Park, the biggest gorge in the world, the biggest tree in the world, that's Sequoia National Park, that's the General Sherman tree. I also got to see, for some reason, the largest thermometer, the tallest thermometer in the world. I don't know why he's running. Anyway, that's just distracted me a little. Yeah, I got to see the largest thermometer, the tallest thermometer in the world. But one of the things that I really like, which I wasn't quite sure, stop laughing, which I wasn't quite... One of the things that I wasn't expecting to be as beautiful was Joshua Tree Desert. Now that was so beautiful, and I got some really cool pictures of the car. Make sure you check them out on Instagram. My Instagram account is Naveed for Speed, same as my YouTube channel. I got some really cool pictures of the car at Joshua Tree. It's so beautiful, a beautiful, nice place to drive because the roads are good. Now the problem with the roads elsewhere, on the highways, on the freeways, everywhere else, the roads here in America are so bumpy. This really not good. But this car dealt with them really well. The car itself is actually really quite comfortable. And when you look at the car, it's a proper American muscle car. It's a pony car. It looks good. It's got the big rear haunches with all the power. It's got the imposing bonnet. It's really quite good. It's allowed me to see things that I wouldn't have ordinarily have seen, and it's allowed me to go on road trips. So all in all, I think this car is really good, and it turns heads. It looks so good. The American muscle cars do really look quite good. My favorite is the Dodge Charger. Every time I've seen, especially the police cars, they look really good. But aside from that, yeah, this is such a really good car, and it's been a really good journey. It's been a really good trip as well. If you haven't been on a road trip, make sure you go out on a road trip and make sure you go and see the world. Even if it's just in the UK, even if it's just in your region, there's so many beautiful things to see. And if you want to see more road trips, make sure you like this video, make sure you subscribe to my channel, and make sure you comment. Let me know what you liked about this trip or what you don't like about America. And also, if you haven't watched my Switzerland road trip, make sure you click this button up here. I'll put the link here. Make sure you click that, make sure you watch that road trip as well. But aside from that, this particular road trip, this particular journey, all I can say is it's been incredible.